So let's start recording. Yeah, so today, lab 6, I do take the download of the information there, and there's a Word document that you can look at, which I've got up here now. I should share the screen. Share the screen so you can see this Word document. Um, this describes the work that you have to do. When you're finished, you should have three pages of HTML and CSS. One page there, the contact page, that's familiar to you. You've already done the contact page before. So all you're doing with the contact page is you are updating it, adding some features. Um, so the particular features that you're going to do is a fixed width of the entire page. And that fixed width of the page is going to be carried over to all of the other pages. When I say all of the other pages, because there are 2 other pages in this exercise. Now, the second page is a product details page that also you have and comes with the download. So what you have to do is just update it. And again, what you're going to do with this is to fix the width of the well, you're going to have 2 columns in it. And so fixed width column, a column on the left and a column on the right. And how you're going to do that is you're going to initiate a kind of a grid thing. You do that by putting some divs. Divs are divisions in the HTML to separate some elements. So you can have elements inside of elements. So you're going to have a one element which covers basically the entire page, and you're going to set the width for that. And then you're going to have some other elements that cover the columns. And so you're going to have one column for the image and one column for everything else. And so then you'll take the image column and you'll float it to the left and make it a fixed width. And then you'll take the other column and you'll float it to the left. So they're both floated to the left, and you'll make it a fixed width. And that way, as long as the fixed width that you've got for these 2 columns are less than or equal to the fixed width that you've got for the entire page, then they will slot in together beside each other. Then at the end of the HTML, you're going to have to reference this grid that you've created, because you've created, by putting these divs together like that, it creates a kind of a grid with the floating to the left. And so at the end, you're going to need to clear that. And we'll look at how we do that. Then the last page, you've actually got a page which is new, which you haven't done this before. And what it's made of is 6 more or less identical elements. That is, they're identical in size and shape and outside styling. And so how we're going to manage those is we're going to apply. Did you want to talk, Othman, because you're coming over? I don't know if you wanted to.
Sorry, one.
All right, well, I'll mute you then. If you want to talk, you can unmute yourself. So that if you look at that, that's a page with just 6 more or less identical elements in size and shape. And so how we manage that is what we're going to do is we're going to apply a class to them. So they each have a class. And actually, inside that class, we've got a couple of elements too. So there's an element there for the entire, what you call it, the phone, whatever, phone element, whatever. And then inside, we've got the phone image and also the phone description. And they'll be separated as elements inside the element. So you can have this element of the phone details or whatever. And so the important thing is that phone element is a fixed width, which is slightly less than 1/3 the width of the page. So we fix the width of the page, and then we fix the width of these elements, which are all the identical width and height. And so when we float them all to the left in a grid, they will sort of fall into place like you were stacking something on a table and you had a rule. Let's say you just had a rule, which is I will stack everything up against the left starting in this corner. And I put one down, and then the next one goes beside it, and then and like that. And in that way, they all sort of fall into place into our page until the space of one width of the page is used up, and then they have to go down to the next line. And you could continue on with this if you added a lot more of these elements but we've only got 6 and it takes up that space. So we use classes so that we can style one of them and the rest use the same styling. That's the real power of classes. We've used IDs, but IDs only work for one element. So class allows you to style something, but um, uh, it's not going to be a single element. It's going to be many elements. So let's look at the actual uh, how that's going to look. So if I pull up, where have I got those? Is that it? Yeah. Okay. It's not really it, but because I've got the answer to it here in Lab 7. So if you have a look at this, this is what these look like. Oh, well, I've got it there. So let's just have a look. So we've got the 3 files. The first file there is the contact support, which you can see. Now, what is different about this? You're going to look at it and say, oh, that's the same as the other 3 labs that we've done. Well, that's true. It is slightly different though, because look, when I compress the, the width of the page, do you notice that unlike previous versions of this document, we're not compressing any of the columns. So we're not compressing it so that it fits into the screen. If we just keep we actually, it's like 2 of the columns disappear, and that's because there's no compression of that allowed, because we're not using percents. We're not using variable width. We're using a fixed width. When we look at the widths, we'll see that those widths are set as px, pixels. And so that's how that is approached. Now, we've made the width of the page a fixed width at 800 pix, and we've made the width of the table to take up all of that width. Okay, so somebody was saying something. Yeah, all right. Yes, those people, a bit later on, I will make sure to mark the roll again so that I've got you. Don't worry. That's the first page. So how does that look in HTML? That would be the contact support. Hopefully you can see this. I've got to move that out of the way, and I don't know if you can even see those, but they are in the way for me. All right, so this stuff should look familiar to you. Contact support, it's the same as what you've done before, right? You've got your little table. None of this is new. Remember the row span thing that we did before? Yeah, all of that's all done before. Nothing new under the sun there. So where the difference is in us fixing the width of the container. Now, I said there's nothing new under the sun. Maybe this is new. Maybe you haven't had a container that wraps around the entire page. If you notice, the start of this div is right after the start of the body tag, and it finally closes just before the end of the body tag. So that might be one new thing, is we've added a div tag and we've called it container, which we've wrapped around the entire page. This allows us to style the entire page without having to style everything in the body tag. And how that styling works is here. So we've got this ID. It was set as an ID, and we fixed the width. We fixed the width. We made the width exactly 80 pixels. Now this is going to be the same in the 3 pages that we're going to do today. So we've got 3 pages: the contact support, the product details, and the product list. All of them are going to set the width fixed at 800 pix, so that when we try and compress that page, it yeah, it's 800 pix, and it just doesn't compress. I mean, there's no percent there or anything like that. It's just 800 pix. And so that is how that is achieved, with 2 things. We use an ID and a div to wrap around almost all of the HTML that's inside the body, and then we style that with a fixed width. And so that's what we're going to do with the contact page. Otherwise, the contact page is more or less the same as it was before. I think maybe these things here with the width, yeah, that was done before, right? We set the width of the 2 columns to a fixed width. That's for the mobile phone and the other column. The table itself, that width is set to 100%. That's no big deal. It's 100% of the width of the container in which it sits. The container in which it sits is this container we call container. All right. And so that means that, so the width of the table, sorry, the width of the page is 800, and the width of the table is 800 because we set it to 100. So that's all that's happening there. Are you guys ready? How are we going? Are you following me? Where were we with our comments and stuff? There.
So what exactly like are we supposed to do?
Oh, you don't. It's not at all clear. Um,
I've
so
been focusing, you've been like explaining the things we've done, but I don't know like what exactly am I supposed to do?
what's new? What's new? Is that what you mean? Because what's new is what you have to do.
Yeah, which is what?
Okay, what you will not find in any of the work that you've done to date, I don't think you have put a container wrapper. I don't think you've done that. Have you? I don't think you have. So that's new. So you have to do that now.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so you're going to have
What
to
is it for, the container?
you put the container there so that you can fix the width of the page. So once you've got the wrapper, container here is a div. Once you've got that put into the HTML, then you can style it and fix the width of the page. That's what's different from what you did before. So you're going to take, so basically what I'm showing you is everything else was done in lab 4, right? All of this other stuff, all the colors, the table itself, all of that was done. What's new, what you have to do is take the result of lab 4, add this div, all right, and then fix the width. So this hash container is referencing the new div that you add, which you said you did by putting ID container. You don't have to call it container. You can call it something else if you wanted. And what that will do is that will give you a page where you cannot compress it from side to side. It's a page with a fixed width. Is that clear now? Today, that's what we're trying to do is make a fixed width page. Okay. Hello. Um, Still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Is it okay?
Yes, it's okay now.
All right, good. And it's the same with this page here. The next page is this product details. Doesn't it look the same? It looks the same, right? The only difference is notice that when we get our window to less than 800 pix, nothing happens to the actual body in there. It's also fixed at 800 pix. So it's going to be the same idea. If we look at the HTML and CSS of this page, which we will in a second, we'll see that we're going to use the same stuff. So you could actually just do this for the one page and copy paste it to the other. Yeah, product details. Yeah, it is the same, right? So this in the product details is the same as in the contact support. And it also means that you're going to have in the product details, you're going to have inside the body, you're going to put a container div, which is going to wrap the entire page. But we're going to add one extra thing. And why? Because we're going to fix the width of these two columns, right? So this column is going to be 200, this column is going to be 600, and the page is going to be 800. And so we are adding, actually, here's a little secret that we're adding before. So this is the div for the container that I'm highlighting now. And then just inside it at the end, we got this new div, which you've never seen anything like this before. What? Grid clear. Now, grid clear is an ID that we're using. There's no intrinsic value in the word grid clear. You could call it whatever you like. That's user assigned, but it's important because what we're doing is we're putting a little div at the end of our page so that we can style it with a command which will clear a previous command, which is to float things to the left. So throughout the document, everything is floated to the left. And at the end of the document, we're going to unfloat it to the left. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't work. Now, why is the float to the left important? Because we've got two columns. And what we want to do is we want to have our left column, put that down first, float it to the left, and then the right column is also going to be floated to the left, and it's going to land in beside it. As long as the total width of the left column and the right column are less than or equal to the total width of the page, they will sit side by side together like that. And that's achieved here. So what we do is we've got some other divs in here now. We set up a div just for the left column, and we've called that product photo, and that is just for the left column. This little bit of code here, that might be different than what you've done before, I don't know, but we set the ID, given it an ID, called it product photo, and we've set its width. If you look up here, we've got its width set fixed to 200 pix. Now, just a minute ago, I told you that we set the width of the entire page to 800 pix. And so 200 pix of it is going to be the first column. And that is going to be floated to the left. So the first column is going to go in there to the left. Then the rest of this is going to be another column. And so if we look at where the photo ends, then we've got another div after that, which is our photo details. And that basically takes up everything to the end there. And that is going to be set to be the balance, which is 600 pix. So that's photo product details, and that's set to 600 pix. It's also floated to the left so that it sits in beside the photo. Now, then what's going to happen is if you look at this, we've got a few other, the rest of it's just exactly the same as what you've seen before. And then you've got your grid clear at the end. So we've set up this grid. We set up this grid where one column is set and it's floated to the left, and another one is set and floated to the left beside it. And together they make up the 800 pix. That's the width of the page. And that's done with implicitly with the grid. So at the end, to make that sure, we put in a command to stop the floating, right? And so to do that, we need to make a fake div, an empty div, and clear the floating. So clear the left so that the float stops and everything is in place the way we wanted it to be. Any questions about that? That's the second page. Second page, there are some similarities to the first page, but you've got, basically this new special little div that we've got, and the fact that we've set up our fixed widths. Now, notice also that we're styling the image. We style its width to 100%. 100% of what? 100% of the element in which the image is found. Well, the image is inside the product photo element, and the product photo element is styled to be 200 pix. And so the image is going to take up all the width of that. And the auto is set to height because wherever you got that image from, the imaging software sets it up so that it's not distorted, so that it looks the way it originally looked. And so auto height is going to keep that from being distorted. So all we had to do is set the width to take up the entire column. And you might say, well, it doesn't look like it's taking up the entire column. Well, yeah, it kind of is. All right, because that's the way that image is there. Are you okay with that? Now, the rest of the stuff in there came from your previous work, I believe. Any questions on that? Because next I'm going to ask you to really pay attention, right? The next one is the more trickier one, right? The next one is this last one. What we're going to do is we're going to do that grid thing again. So we're going to have to, okay, so let's talk about it. We're going to have a container for the entire page, and we're going to set that to 800 pix. That's just going to be the exact same code that we used in the other two pages. Boom, boom, right? Container tag at the top, and at the bottom, the div there, and then in the CSS hash container, width of 800 pix. So that's going to give us that. Then we're going to have 6 identical elements, which we're going to call product details or something like that, product something. And they're all going to have the same, when I say identical, they're going to be styled identically to have the same width. And the width that they're going to have is going to be such so that 3 of them will fit within that 800 pix. So we take the number 800 and divide by 3 and then subtract a few so that we got a bit of room on either side. And that's the width that we set for this product um, element. And then inside the product element, it's going to have 2 other elements, one for the image and one for the um, whatever you want to call that, the caption, I guess you'd say. I don't think we use the word caption, but and then just like in the previous page, we're going to float everything to the left so that they all stack up beside each other. So let's have a look at how that happens. So you're going to actually have to go ahead and write all the HTML for this because you haven't done this page before. So you're going to start off with your container, same like you did in the other ones, right? You're going to do that the same as you did in the other ones. The difference, though, I think so. I think that container, yes. The last thing inside that container, you're going to have this grid clear, just like we did in the product details table. Sorry, page. Same, right? You're going to have this ID there so that you can clear to the left. And you're going to do that the same in this product list, right? You're going to set up a grid clear so that you can clear to the left. So that code is going to be the same. The other code that's going to be the same too is the container, right? That all that container styling is the same for all 3 pages. I think probably the body styling of that is the same for all 3 pages too. So then what we've got is if we look here, we're setting up this class that we call product. And that is what I'm referring to. There's 6 of these products that are identical in the way that they're styled. And so we do that with a class. We've got the class product repeated 6 times. So the easiest way to do this would be to do all the code for one of the images and then copy paste, copy paste, copy paste 6 times and edit to get the right image name and the details there. Now you might have to play around with the heights and the widths because the images that are given to you may be different. Now, when I say the images that are given to you, if you look at the uh, distribution, you're going to have 6 images in a folder, and they are different, right? So you look, this one's a lot bigger image than that one, and so you're going to have to tweak the size and the width of those images in the CSS to get them to sort of fit into the pages, into the um, into the product class. So how that happens, as I said, is this bit of code is going to be repeated 6 times. So what do you got? You got 2 divs inside a div. You got a div called product. And then inside the div called product, you're going to have div called product image. And in there, you're going to have the image tag. Then you're going to have another div, which is just going to be the description. And all you're going to have is some words. And so with the image, you're going to have to, well, you're just centering it in the inside the element that it sits, right? But the product is the thing that's got the dotted line around it, and the product is the thing that holds the image and the description. And so we fix the width of that. In the container, we fix the width of the page to 800. Then in the product, we're fixing the width to 258. And if you multiplied 258 by 3, you'd find out that it's something less than 800. And the amount that it's less than 800 is enough to have these little gaps and a bit of margin on the side. And then the other things there are just about very, very important. The floating to the left, otherwise this grid wouldn't work. Okay, that's how they stack up one beside the other, is by floating them all to the left. And then we got some margins that sort of work with them, and the border is styled. So that is the product, is this thing which is surrounded by the dotted line. Then the product description is the words at the bottom. And then the product image is the is the image itself. Now, the A tag, okay, so where we got our A tags? So if we've got a link, here we go. Yeah, so the A tag is because we may have another an href to a different page. So we think we only did that for one of these. That's interesting. That's so we have a link that goes to the other page. All right, so so you know about hyperlinks and A tags, I hope. So yeah, so you're going to make this code, which is a div for the product with two divs inside it, one for the image and one for the text. And then you're going to style them so that um, the entire product has a width of that. And the image, oh yeah, there's now look in the product image, the actual image itself inside the product image element has its height fixed so that we didn't, so that otherwise these wouldn't stay because the images are all different sort of sizes and shapes so that that doesn't sort of cause a problem. We fixed the height of the image to be 258. So the image is kind of starting here and ending here. It's inside this box. And so all of those images are the same height so that our boxes don't get distorted. And yeah, that's about it. All right. And so, and then at the end, of course, like I said, you have to clear the grid. That's more or less it. The code is there and you've seen it. So, I mean, you should be able to do it. I tried to explain it.